Okay, we're live. Let me know if you can hear me. Let me know if you can hear me, alright? Yes? There might be a little static. I have a very shitty microphone. Okay. What is that? Ooh, a new weapon. Cool. Oh, okay, yeah. Okay, here's the chat. Yeah, let's do like any questions you have or anything, just throw them here on the Twitch stream and I'll try to be as thorough as I can, but we'll go slow, okay? Okay, so I already have the template here for the male, and I have it broken up as torso, arms, legs, and the head, right? And you should have that as well. You should have here, over here on the right corner, this is the bones, the skeleton for the rig, and it should always be named root. And this little eye is just hide or unhide. Right now I have it hidden just so it's easier to see. So you go to File, Import. I'm gonna do this learning example with Mass Effect armor that I never got around to. So this might actually help me get my butt into working with it. But that's good. So now we have the mesh that the mesh that we want to port, right? So what do? Well, for starters, it's facing the wrong way, so I can either shortcut the keyboard letter R, or over here on the left side, you have translate, rotate, scale, mirror, etc. So you can hit rotate as well, and then you just move your mouse. It's gonna do it on the axis that we're facing. Right now, we're facing on the x-axis. So green is the Y, blue is the Z, and red is the X. Okay. Also, quick starters. On the numpad, if you press the number 5, it changes from like the perspective view to orthogonal or I don't know how to pronounce that, but yeah, the ortho view, which I find way more helpful. Um, so yeah, okay. So I'm gonna hit R to rotate, and then I'm gonna hit the letter Z because that's the axis I want to rotate it to towards, and then I'm gonna hit 90, right, 90 degrees. So now we have them where we want it. Now, and keep in mind here, see we have armature. This was added when we imported, right? So you click on this plus sign to see what we have. Ignore these three first things for the moment, and then we see that we have all of these different meshes included that are parented to the armature. While on my XCOM original skeleton, I have these parented to. If you don't like these names, you just double click and you write, well, let me see first of all what this is. If you press the letter Z, like when nothing is selected or anything, it just switches the view down here. Down here you have different view types, right? So you're generally going to be working on solid. You press the letter Z and it toggles between that and the wireframe. The wireframe is really good to see, a lot more detail that really helps. But we also have textures, which will show us the default diffuse map, which we'll get into way later, or material, which will also show us with the specular map applied, the normal map applied, all of the different textures that are required to make the mesh look great, right? So I press Z again, see, and I can just toggle between these. So you want to select all, oh well, yeah, well we wanted I want to show you this. So these are the arms, right? So you just double click and we'll just hit what is this is ME arms, and that's that simple. So let's select all of them again by shift clicking. Oh, not that one, not that one. Sorry, let me do that again. And then also the rig, the bones, which in this case it's called the armature. See, it's like these yellow little dots. So for starters, what we're going to do, let me hide again the bones because I don't want to see them, is I pressed Z again. Now we're going to go to scale, or shortcut letter S. And it's the same thing. If that's all you press, it's going to scale uniformly, right? But if we press S to scale and then Y on the Y axis, it's gonna scale it on that axis. Or let me switch this to this view. To switch between views, okay, yeah, okay. Let me teach you that as well. On the numpad, you have obviously the various numbers. I already taught you that 5 switches between normal perspective to the orthogonal perspective, or whatever it's called. 3 is front view or side view. I'm not aware. 1 is the other. I mean, 1 is side and 1 is front. So 1 and 3, I'm gonna switch between these, which are really helpful. Then 7 is top, right from the top. And then 9 is opposite of where we are. So this would be the bottom. If I go to the front view and press 9, now I'm in the back. If I go to the side view and press 9, I'm on the opposite side. Really helpful as well for trying to maintain symmetry. And then 8, 4, 6, and 2 are just, like little incremental movements on the axes. So we do that. So 3, 1, and 7 are going to be your main ones. I generally go from 3 to 1 mostly, but you're going to be playing with these a lot. So what I want to show you here, so again, so we press S to scale and then X on the X-axis. So now it's going to scale it on the X-axis, right? But we want to do it uniformly right now. So we press scale, and then I'm just moving my mouse up and down. That's all I'm doing. So I mean, we're gonna go here by eyesight. I mean, there's no great way, no exact way. I mean, these are different games, so we're gonna try to do it as close as we can. Generally, when I'm doing any sort of port, what I try to align is not the head or the shoulders, but the pelvis. So I mean, the XCOM one I have is wearing hot short shorts, right? So any armor would be bulkier. So I think this is pretty much a good scaling size. Then I'm gonna go 1 to see the side view, and well, it's not perfectly aligned, so we just need to move it. So you can either on the gizmo here, this little thing, I think it's called the gizmo. You can either just left click and drag where you want, or here translate, and see, you can see when you hover over a mouse, you get a little shortcut, right? Wait, I think are you following me? Oh, wait a sec. Okay. Sorry. Yeah, where did I lose you? We're here. Wait, I have it disabled here on the thing, but throw me your questions here, V, on oh no, I got you till now. Okay, so you're with me? All right, good, excellent. Okay, so where was I? Oh yeah, so we want to move him. Oh, Control Z, like pretty much everything is just undo, and Control Shift Z is redo. So just by little eyesight, it's not perfectly aligned, so we can go translate or G, but just again translate, and then the axis that you want to move it. So we want to move it on the X-axis, right? On the red, right? So depends if you want to use shortcuts or you want to press these buttons, whatever is faster, but also whatever is a little bit more precise for you. So I use shortcuts a lot, but I also use just these buttons a lot. So we go translate X. Wait, let me. This is a better measure. Okay, so translate X, and I'm trying to align the butt, right? The pelvis. So that's pretty close. I still see, a lot of poking, but that's fine. I mean, it doesn't, since we're gonna replace this mesh with the XCOM mesh, it doesn't matter if it's not perfectly tailored and fitted to fit the exact body proportions, right? Since we're replacing stuff, so it won't be a problem. Okay, so now comes something a little bit more involved, which you've probably already seen, but I'll walk you through it again. Right now we're in object mode. Click here and go into edit mode. Since what's selected or selected last is the armature, right now I'm in edit mode of the bones. We don't want that. No, at least not right now, or at least not for this model. The tab key switches between object mode and edit mode, as you can see down here. But what we want to do now with the original mesh and its bone is we're going to go into pose mode. Notice how the bones changed color, right? So this gets a little tedious, but I mean it really helps, and it's gonna make your life easier for this one and for future projects. With the right click is select, left click places this 3D cursor, which I don't use at all for anything, so I just put it far away, and right click is select. You can, in the preferences, you can change that if you rather select with left click or whatever, but I just right now think the default behavior is right click is select. So I'm selecting this one and I see that I have selected the shoulder, which is great. So again, now I'm going to go rotate on the X axis, and it's moving this way. Or you can go top view, R for rotate, Z for the Z axis, and I'm moving it backwards and forwards. Or go to the side view, R for rotate, Y for the Y axis, and it's going to move it in the Y axis. Now, I think the better way to do things is to use numbers to maintain symmetry as much as you can, because right now in theory we could just hit R, rotate, and then kind of yeah, there. But then when you want to do this one, it's not, how are you going to find if it's the exact one, on the exact same plane that you landed the other one? So what I do is I use numbers. So I hit rotate X, and then by eyesight, just calculating 8, and then hit enter. So like, okay, maybe 8's a little too much. Maybe actually the default position that the shoulder is in actually works. So then we're not going to move the shoulder, we're going to move the arm. So we select the arm, R, X, I'm going to hit 15. Okay. Well, that's not enough. But just so I don't lose track, keep in mind, this is the center point. This blue line is the center point. So now, since we're on the other side, we're going to have to go into the negatives. So we're going to hit R for rotate, X for the X-axis, negative, what was it, 15? Yeah, 15. 1, 5. Now it's doing it the proper direction that we wanted. And we see, well, I'm not there just yet. So maybe another 15 or maybe 12. So rotate X, negative 15. Maybe it's a little too much. So I press ESC to cancel it. Rotate X, negative, how about 8? Not enough. I press delete. It's deleting the 8, but I'm still within the rotate and X axis and in the negatives. So, or just hit ESC and you'll be fine, right? So it's not that overwhelming. So again, rotate X, negative, about 12. 12 looks good. Hit enter. Let's do 12. Rotate X, 1, 2. Notice I didn't do the negative because I'm on this side. So now I'm gonna go in the top view, and I'm gonna notice that maybe the shoulder is leaning a little bit backwards. But before that, and this is something that you'll slowly get accustomed to in practice, is the way obviously the bones are parented and everything. Generally, the main parent is the pelvis bone, and then it separates downwards towards the legs, and then upwards towards the torso, and then the arms are parented towards the torso. So what does that mean? That means that if I'm going to move a bone from the torso, it's going to move the arms as well, and the head and the neck and everything, right? But you had a minor setback. I have a tiny delay, like I think like 10-15 seconds from reading chat and seeing the stream, so let me know. Also, if you want, you can just hit me privately on Discord, and we can do it there. Otherwise, we shall continue. Okay. So yeah, so we before we actually, I shouldn't have done this first, but luckily the Mass Effect meshes are very close to the positioning and the proportions of XCOM, so that's very convenient. But generally, you want to start with the torso, right? So, for example, we could make, I mean, it's pretty perfect, but we could make some minor adjustments. Maybe, you know, we'll go a little bit in front to maybe try to align these things to the curvature of the back, and then go up a bone, and then rotate him a little bit back. All right. So yeah, I think that might look a little bit better. If we want to check stuff like that, we can see the torso, the XCOM torso, and hide it. Arms, you can hide them as well. Just leave the head. Or here we can hide the head in the Mass Effect mesh. Let's check which one's the head. So this is the eyelashes and the lashes. There we go. This is the enemy head. Oh, okay. So this is the enemy face. This is enemy eyes. This is the enemy torso. This is the enemy pauldrons. And this is the enemy legs. Okay. So we can hide the head and the eyes and the face, and we can see how it's looking, like how it's fitting. Oh, and the lashes. So like, okay, it's not looking bad. It's not looking bad. Like, okay, still a long way to go, but we'll get there. So even if they're hidden, we select them as well. I think you can actually just select the armature and that's it, but it helps to me visually to see them when they're highlighted, so that I have the contrast of the orange being highlighted and then the XCOM mesh being not highlighted, just being in black. So see, if I just select the armature, it's gonna be, I mean, it still works the exact same way, but since it's black on black, I can't really see, so I just select everything. Opa. Every time. Okay. And again, we're in object mode, so back to pose mode. Okay. So maybe the shoulder isn't exactly aligned as we would like. So let's bring it forth on rotate on the Z. I don't know, maybe a 6. And that looks better. That definitely looks better, so we'll do the same. Rotate Z -6 and keep that. But now the actual arm maybe not as greatly aligned, so we select the arm, rotate Z negative, since we're going to go clockwise, 6. Now it is straightened out, but actually it's not hitting it the right place, so maybe I could grab the torso, hit rotate with no specific axis because I'm facing this way, so it's gonna move it on the Y. I could just hit rotate Y and it's gonna be the same thing, right? So rotate, maybe we'll bring you a little bit back so that we align the shoulders. See, now maybe I overdid it a little bit, so let's bring it. Well, actually, no, I think that's good. Yeah, that's pretty good. Okay, the way I'm moving the camera like this, also you can change all of these things in the settings, in the preferences. You go to File, User Preferences here. You can change a lot of things, but basically, wheel up, wheel down, I zoom in. You can zoom into like a global area, or we can select in the preferences like zoom in towards where the mouse cursor is, right? So if I'm here, or if I'm here, it's gonna zoom in into where the mouse cursor is. I think this is very helpful to navigate, and it helps. Also, if you click the wheel and then move the mouse, that's how you rotate. And again, you can rotate based on where you clicked, or rotate based on like a global axis. You can change all of that in the preferences. Shift wheel click, you just move, you pan the camera like this, holding shift. Otherwise, just click and hold, and we just rotate the camera like so. And then I press 3 again in the numpad to always go back to my centered view. Okay, so back to what we were doing, the arms. See, now it's looking a little bit better. So maybe I brought the shoulder forth a little bit too much. So let's go back again. Rotate, Z, -3. Now that looks good. 3. And for this case, it would be positive since we're going counterclockwise. So rotate, Z, 3. No, counterclockwise, sorry. Okay. So now we're going to see the arm is straight, the forearm is extended, so it's not that easy to see. So what I do is I just select it randomly, rotate, Z, -15, or screw it, 25, just so that I can have the bend, just so that I can tell where the elbow bend is, so that I can align it to the arm. And as I can see, it's further on the Mass Effect mesh, is further out than on the XCOM mesh. So what do? We select the bone, and it's the same thing as when we were in object mode with everything selected. We can translate up here in the top left corner, translate, rotate, or scale. So we hit scale without specifying which axis. It's going to do it uniformly. Same thing, we press the letter S, scale. We can go on the Z axis, so this would be how tall it is or not. All right. Or whoa, why is it? Hold on, I'm out of. Whoa. Shit. The arms are not aligned. I missed. See, this is why it's important to keep the symmetry going. I probably missed. Damn it. Probably missed a movement on this one, but shit, I forgot the numbers. Sorry, apologies. Well, see, this is why I think that the numbers help, right? So. Crap, maybe rotate on the Z, what was it, 8? No, 6, too much, 4, 5, I don't think that's the issue, I think this is from you. Rotate, Z, 4, oh Jesus, 2, 3, yeah, I think this. Well, it's closer at least. Shit. Maybe it's a Y thing? See, now this is exactly what I didn't want to do. I mean, you can undo and you have history here on the left side. Long and you can set how many undo steps you want to do. But just for the teaching purposes right now, I think it's fine. So we were what? Oh yeah, scaling. Okay, so go to our top view by pressing 7 on the number pad, and we see that it's a little bit further out. So we're gonna scale on the Y, and then bring it, a little bit. Oh right, yeah, not by eyesight, but by numbers. Scale Y, and the scaling works a little differently. Think of percentages. So a 1 means 100%. So a 0.9 is 90%. Right? That's a little difference between the rotating. The rotating, you're gonna rotate by full numbers, and the scaling, you're gonna do decimal increments, thinking of as percentages. So like 1 is 100 and 0.9 is 90, etc., etc. So now this looks a little bit better. It looks a little bit better here on this view, but on the front view, I don't know. Seems like the forearm is still a little bit bigger. So it's a lot of trial and error, testing and testing, but eventually you get there. Now, say that, just for learning purposes right now, say that we're done. We have finished, and the mesh is where we want it to be. Alright. So what do we do now? Go back to object mode, and there's a lot of steps that I don't want to teach you right now because it might be a little bit overwhelming. Screw it. Okay, what we want to do is we want to unparent these meshes from this bone, and we want to parent it to our bone. So what do we do? For starters, we can do this individually, one by one, or we can, for the time being, select all of the meshes, and then we're gonna press here. Be sure that you're on your viewport. Control J to join them. They have now been joined. They have been joined into one object. This is like one object, okay? And this here, this little like sphere, I'm in the material setup. So now that I see that the materials for the different meshes that were here have now been combined into the same space, because we're only one object. It used to be what, like 7 objects. It is now just one object. I'll go into this whole texture thing a little bit later on, but don't worry about it right now. So right now we joined. Why did we join? Because now we need to go into this little wrench, blue wrench, or modifiers. We're gonna add a modifier. The modifier that we want to add is armature. And here in object, we're going to select armature again. Basically what this is doing is it already has a modifier, and the modifier is this mesh is already parented to the armature, the little black lines, the bones. What I'm doing here is I'm doing it again. I'm repeating it. I'm reparenting the mesh to the bones. So it's going to deform it because it's going to exaggerate the movements and scalings that we did. So it's going to look like shit for a second, but bear with me. I'm going to do it to armature. See, now it moved and exaggerated the movements that we did. We're going to hit apply, and then we're going to delete this one. And now it's back to what we did. Then we're going to hit Alt P, and we're going to clear and keep transformation. And if you notice here, it has been delinked from the armature. So now we're free to select the armature and delete it, and then when we select our mesh and we hit tab to go into edit mode, you'll see that the mesh doesn't move. What happens if we don't do this modifier process? Let me undo. Let me show you. For starters, when you select the mesh, right? Say we select the armature bone, and we're going to do an exaggerated movement here, just to show you what I mean. Oh, I mean, it doesn't really have to be exaggerated, but you'll see what I mean. I'm going to rotate this X2, and then we're going to grab this one and I'm going to rotate it, yeah, a little exaggerated. Right? Say that's what we want for just learning purposes. This is what we want. While it's still parented to the bone, to the original skeleton, and you select the mesh, when I'm going to hit tab into edit mode, you'll see that it automatically moves back to its original position. See? So you're like, wait, I don't want you to do that. I want you to respect the movement that I did. Why is that happening? Because it's parented, the modifier is saying that it's parented to the mesh, to the bone, to the original bones. That's why we do that. So let me undo that leg movement that we don't need. So sorry, pose mode, object mode. Yeah, and you're gonna be switching between these modes a lot. So let's do that again. So select everything. For this, I believe they need to be visible. We can't join without if they're hidden. So again, Control J, they have been joined. Then here, the blue wrench is the modifiers tab. Add modifier, armature. Here in object, armature again, which we see it already. This is what the original one was, so we're doing it again. So now we apply. And then remove this one. Alt P to clear the parenting and keep the transformation. Now we can select the armature, and here on the left side we delete it. Yes. And now when we go into edit mode, it respects the deformation that we did. Now we want to parent it to our bones. So we again select the mesh, which is already selected with a little yellow highlight. Shift, select the bones. And then we're going to press Control P, not Alt P, but Control P. And see, set parent to, we're going to select armature deform for right now. See, so now it has been added. We can just test it. We select our bones. Let's just select pose. Let's select one of the bones here, rib cage. We'll just rotate. Ah, yes, it's not gonna move because why? Okay, this is gonna get a little bit more complex, but bear with me. We're gonna hide these the bones for a second, and we're gonna go here, and then we're gonna go into this little like upside down triangle, which is the object data, and here are our vertex groups. This is what our, it's a little daunting because of this is every single bone group in the mesh. Jesus. All right. We have all of these bones. So how do we see what's happening? Well, we go down here to the left. Instead of object mode, this is with the mesh selected, remember? Right? So we're selecting the mesh. Object mode, now we're going to go into weight paint. And you're going to be like, what? So now we're going to press Z because it's just easier to see things. You go here into options because your default is going to be here and you're going to see it blue. So what I do is I go into active, and you'll start understanding what weight paints are. So these are the names of each bone from the original mesh that it had, and each bone is tied to the vertex groups. Obviously each one of these is a vertex. So this is showing the influence that the bone has on the vertex. So let me go to pelvis. See, red means that the strength is 1. Again, think of this as percentages, right? So weight is 1. That means that's the strongest it is. What does that mean? That means that when the pelvis bone moves, these meshes will follow that movement. The more it goes into the rainbow colored range, the less the strength is. Like, say for example, if you hit control and left click this one, the green one, you'll see that the strength is 0.518. We go into the blue one, see 0.227. We'll go into the orange one, it's going to be an 857. We go into the pelvis, the strong red one, it's a 1, right? This is what's going to determine all of the rigging and the movement. So when I moved the skeleton and and the mesh didn't obey, why is it? That's because they have different names. So let's grab the spine upper. Yeah, let's grab this one, right? And you can select all of them, right? And she's gonna go the amount of bone. What is this? Right fingers. Just look at how many bones it has. 3 per hand, etc. I mean, it can be a little bit daunting, and we don't even want to get into the whole face thing. Okay. This is all head, spine upper. Yeah. Okay. So this one would be the equivalent to XCOM. Let's go to XCOM torso. It's in object mode, so let's also make it a weight paint and hit rib cage. So if we switch between what the XCOM weight paint is and to the Mass Effect armor weight paint is, we see that this is basically the area that's going to be influenced. So a nifty little trick is you double click here, and we're going to rename it with the exact same nomenclature that XCOM uses. So in this case it would be ribcage. Now watch what happens. We go back to object mode. We unhide our bone, our skeleton, select it. We go into pose mode. We select I'll teach you that in a second. We select the ribcage bone and we rotate it. See, now it's respecting it because it's the exact same name. So that means that, okay, the bone name is ribcage, the vertex group name is ribcage, so when I move it, it'll obey. And how will it obey? Depends on the strength of the weight paint that has been placed on the mesh. So we go back to object. I'm going to hide it because we don't need it. I'm going to go back to weight paint. I mean, this is all dirty and quick and not precise whatsoever, but again, the Mass Effect armors are really XCOM friendly, and you'll notice that the armor is big blotches of paint. They're not as gradient as here, as in the neck, for instance. Well, that's because the armor is metal, and we don't want it to bend. What we see, big blotches, but this area, we go back and go to texture, object. See, this is the whole metal armor, so this isn't going to bend, but maybe this area is a little bit more, like nano suit, special alien sci-fi thingy, so that's going to bend. So it is color gradient, right? So it's going to help. But these big armor plates, they're going to have just one color across because they do not bend. So trying to encapsulate everything as best as I can. Let's select the shoulders, not the shoulder, but the pulled one. Yeah, okay, here we go. Okay, wait, hold on. Let me go back, out. Okay, remember how we joined everything? Uh, so that we can unparent it with just one iteration of the process and not have to do it with every single one. Say we want to separate them again. So how do we do that? We go into edit mode. The letter A for all toggles between selecting it all or nothing, right? If you press the letter, if you go on top with the mouse on top of a vertex and you hit the letter L, it will select all the linked vertices of the mesh. So I pressed L and it just selected the top of the pauldron. We want to select also the underneath part. So we hover around here, press L, and now the entire pauldron is selected. Right? Well, almost. If you press the letters, I mean, you can right click or you can press the letter C for a circle and then just left click, select. Wheel click to deselect. And the letter B as in box to make a box selection. Okay? Okay, so we have our pauldron selected, the entire thing now, hopefully. Hope I'm not missing anything. Doesn't matter. We want this to be a separate object. So we're going to press the letter P. Separate. And we're going to separate the selection. We want it to be separate by what we selected. So see, now I have AMI phase, that was the name of our thing, and now we have AMI phase .1 001. So see, that's the entire thing, and then this is the thing, right? So now you can freely alter this one without altering that one. It's also very helpful for when we're doing specific weight paint issues. So see, for example, all of the the vertex groups have been, they remain with them, but now we see that we don't need any of this. So say, for example, I don't need the fingers, so this minus sign is remove all of this unused crap that we do not need because they are not influencing this one. I mean, some of them will, we just need to find them, be careful. They're going to be the left shoulders. Thigh, pelvis, right shoulder, left shoulder twist. Okay, so we skip this one. Left shoulder twist, arm shoulder doesn't have any influence. Or these. Yep. No, these are all of the head ones. So there won't be any influence. So doesn't that look much nicer? Okay, now we go back to object mode. I'm gonna select the arms and check what the naming nomenclature is for XCOM. And I see that XCOM uses I would parent it to the arm. So we see that it's using capital L arm. That's the name. Okay, so I'm gonna go to you. Right now this doesn't matter, I can even delete one. And we just change your name to capital L arm. Back to object mode. Turn on our thing. Select it. Pose mode. Find the stupid bone. Left arm. There we go. And rotate. And now the pauldron respects it and follows the bone. When I was telling you about this on the Discord that we were just talking, see, I missed a couple of vertices here. This is part of the whole body. Okay, doesn't matter. I said that helmets are very easy. Why? Because the helmet. Let's say for a second that this little thing, we're gonna make this a helmet. Okay, so we're gonna select it all and just bear with me really quickly. I'm gonna rotate it like this. I'm gonna rotate it like that. Rotate it like this. Rotate Z -90. We're gonna make this into a horrible face mask. Drag up, drag to the left, drag on the X. Right, so there's our that's our little mask. There we go. Cool looking mask. Yeah, so imagine that we had no groups. You're like, holy shit, how do I paint this? Well, click and drag for the strength. You gotta go to 1, make sure it's in mix. These settings are just default, so no need to change them. Then with your left click, you just paint. Easier way to do it, here's this little like double box thingy that I'm not sure what it's called, but you click on it and you basically see it makes it transparent. You see the behind, so you go back here and then paint it. And then you go back up close. We see that we have already painted every single vertex available. So that's pretty cool. So now we have our mesh has been painted to what? To a vertex group named group. No such thing. We want to change it to XCOM's head. So again, click, pose. Letter H hides stuff. If you can't see where our bone is, where our head bone is, I'm having trouble locating where my head bone is. Click on this little stick figure, right? And we'll see stuff here that we can change, right? For example, right now it's displayed as octahedrals, but we can change it to sticks, B-bones, envelopes, wires. If we want names, it'll show us the names of each bone. If we want the axes, it will show us, the axes. I think it's a little convoluted. Shapes, no idea. Colors for when we're moving stuff. X-ray, it'll always show on top of the mesh. So now we know where it is. Here's the head, just because doing this so long, I know where it is. And we'll move it. And yay, our little pauldron helmet works. It moves with XCOM's head. Right? That in theory is it on this part. Okay. Now what you want to do, the only thing we're interested right now in doing is the helmet. Okay, we'll just do the helmet right now. So we are going to select the helmet. Shift select the XCOM rig, and while they're both selected, we're going to go to File, Export, FBX. Let's say desktop for the time being. These are the settings that you want to do. On main, shit, I forget, because you can set up your own presets. Okay, so on main, you just want to have selected armature and mesh. All locals, yeah, whatever. Don't change any of this. Just make sure this is unchecked. On geometry, unchecked. You want smoothing to be to face. Uncheck loose edges. Check tangent space. And then on both armature and animation, uncheck everything. Okay. So we click here and select the name, and this is going to be helmet V test. Export, and now we exported the mesh and the bone. This is very important. Now it's ready to be imported into the XCOM editor, and we will cover that in a later video. Let me take a small break and we can get into that. Okay, so that's it for now. I hope that really helped understand a little bit more about the user interface and about the things that we can do with meshes, with bones, and stuff like that. Okay.